Welcome to Behind the Meter, an MPSC podcast where we explore the people and policies shaping Michigan's energy and telecommunications future. I'm your host, Mike Byrne. In today's episode, we're taking a closer look at telecommunications and broadband expansion in Michigan, critical services that connect our communities, support our economy, and ensure residents have access to reliable communication. We'll talk about the state of broadband access, what's being done to close the digital divide, and how programs like Lifeline help make essential services more affordable. We'll also clear up some common questions about what the Michigan Public Service Commission regulates in telecommunications and what it doesn't. Joining us for the conversation is the newest member of our team, Commissioner Shaquila Myers. Hello, Commissioner Myers.
Hi.
We're also joined by Ryan McAnany, the director of the Telecommunications Division here at the Public Service Commission. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
And we're blessed to have Eric Frederick, who's the Chief Connectivity Officer with the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office, colloquially known as MyHigh. Eric, welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Together, they'll all help us understand the progress being made and the challenges that remain and what's next for Michigan residents and businesses. So maybe we can start out. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what the Telecommunications Division does here at the Public Service Commission?
Sure. Ryan McAnany, Telecommunications Division Director. I've been here since 2005, working in the Telecommunications Division, working on cable matters. We actually had the Protect My Child registry at one point, and worked my way up to the director. But what we do is a variety of things. We work on numbering issues, porting issues, licensing issues, interconnection issues between providers, various programs such as the Lifeline program, the Telecommunication Relay Service program. So we do a number of things that impact the landline customers here in Michigan.
That's great. And Eric, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background as well in the work of MyHigh.
Yeah, so the MyHigh office is a relatively new state office. We were only got staffed and up and running in 2022. So we've been working at a feverish pace to expand broadband access throughout the state of Michigan. Our goal at MyHigh is to really ensure that every Michigander can leverage technology to improve their quality of life. So whether that's ensuring that there's a connection available or making sure that there's a device available or that the skills are there. So we address all of these very mixed issues of the digital divide. To make sure that, again, everyone can leverage that technology for economic prosperity or access to healthcare or education or whatever it is that, again, improves their quality of life. I think this is my 14th year addressing the digital divide in Michigan. Like I said, I joined the state office in 2022, but before that, I worked for a nonprofit organization that worked to expand broadband and close the digital divide in Michigan for many years before that. So been around in the space for a little while in the state, and it's a very exciting time to be in broadband.
That's great. And then we're happy to have you here today. And maybe as we get through the episode a little bit, we can talk about some of those early days and the partnership between the commission and the work that you were originally doing in the state. But maybe we'll start out by talking with Ryan a little bit about the MPSC's role in regulating and overseeing telecommunications in Michigan. What are we responsible for?
Sure. So the MPSC's authority for telecommunication regulation comes from the Michigan Telecommunications Act. That is the act that provides us with authority over consumer issues and wholesale telecommunication issues. Our authority is limited to that of landline providers. We don't regulate, cellular or wireless providers, and also what's called VoIP, the Voice over Internet Protocol. So if somebody has a telephone service through Comcast or Charter, that would be a type of a VoIP service that we don't regulate. So anything having to do with landline regulation, that's where our authority lies from the MTA.
Got it. Even though there's sort of a limited amount of regulation that takes place, there still is a fair amount of interaction with different providers in the state, right? In terms of them registering with us and sort of needing to have access or a license to be able to provide different types of service. And one of those, I think, is Lifeline. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how that works and what Lifeline is used for.
Sure. So Lifeline is a program that helps those in need to be able to get that assistance for the telecommunication service, and it can also be applied towards broadband assistance. In Michigan, we have a state Lifeline program that is specific to landline customers only, and they can receive a certain amount off their bill towards that telephone assistance. On the federal side, we have a federal Lifeline program, and that can encompass landline customers, wireless customers, and that support can be towards voice only, a combination of voice and broadband, or standalone broadband only. On the federal side, we have 16 wireless providers here in Michigan that are designated to offer Lifeline service to Michigan customers. And on the landline side, we have 42 companies in Michigan that offer landline service to those customers. And it's all about those customers that are in that financial need. If they're at the 135% below that 135% threshold for the federal poverty level, if they participate on Medicaid, SSI, SNAP, federal public housing assistance, those are the type of programs. If they participate in those, they'd be able to obtain that Lifeline assistance.
Ryan, how can someone apply for Lifeline?
Sure. So the first thing that they should do is if they do have a current provider, talk with them and see if they offer Lifeline service. If they do, they can work with that provider to get a registration going to participate in that. If they don't participate, they can go to the MPSC's website, and we have information on there as to how they can apply. But then also the Universal Service Administrative Company, that organization administers the federal Lifeline program. And so they can go to, it's USAC, usac.org/Lifeline. And they can go on there and go ahead and register that way. If they don't have access to broadband service, we'd encourage them to maybe go to a community center or a local library to be able to access that. Or if they have a friend or a relative, that they can use their broadband service to be able to apply online.
So maybe that's a good transition into a question about sort of broadband access generally in Michigan. And Eric, maybe I'd turn to you to give us a sense of kind of what the state of affairs are today.
Yeah, so Michigan is a big state. We have lots of areas that have world-class broadband service, right? We have a myriad of internet service providers in the state that offer that service of all technology types, from end-to-end fiber to hybrid fiber coax cable internet service, wireless companies of all different varieties there as well, to satellite internet services that a lot of folks are hearing a lot about in the news. But there are still portions of our state that are very rural, where we have low density of population, and it's been difficult to expand service there because it is expensive. So right now we're looking at about 350,000 homes and businesses are working to get connected now through various federal and state programs. So the FCC has several programs that they operate that fund expansion into more rural areas. The USDA has a program that expands into rural areas. MyHigh's very first grant program, called Robin, was $238 million to expand into unserved areas. So there's 350,000 locations that are working to get connected right now, and will be connected in the next several years through that service. But that still leaves several homes and businesses across the state that are even more rural than that, right? That need to get connected. And that's where the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, or the BEAD program, comes in. The BEAD program for Michigan is $1.559 billion in federal funds to expand service to these remaining places. And BEAD is unlike any other grant program before, because it really is designed to fill in all those gaps and get to every last place. We need to get to 100%. And so MyHigh is implementing Robin, again, which is $238 million. The BEAD program, which is $1.559 billion in funding to reach those last places. When it comes to BEAD, Michigan has the third highest number of BEAD eligible locations to connect of any other state or territory in the country. We're third behind California and Texas. So we have a big job to do. And that equates to about 221,000 homes and businesses that we are looking to connect to the BEAD program. And we're proud that we published our BEAD final proposal for public comment on our website, michigan.gov/myhigh. And Folks can take a look at that plan, see who's getting funded and what locations are getting funded with what technology. And so we're really excited to finally have a plan that, again, builds to those very last places that need to get connected.
That's incredible, and appreciate you walking through that and the work that you and your team are doing to try to make sure that there is access in those areas. There's also probably a question of folks who would internet service exists where they are, but they have difficulty being able to obtain that service. So a digital divide kind of question. Can you talk a little bit about that and efforts that the state has underway to be able to try to address some of those issues?
Sure. You can really break down the digital divide into issues of supply and demand, right? The supply side is the actual infrastructure being available to you, right? And that's what the BEAD program and the Robin program are primarily aimed at solving, is making sure that, one, that there's access there. You can call the service provider and get connected. That's the supply side. The demand side problems of the digital divide, I think, are much more complicated, much more nuanced, and much more long-term and systemic that we need to solve. And there are issues related to affordability, digital skills, access to devices, and simple know-how of how you can leverage that internet connection to do something that you want to do, whether it's simply watching Netflix or it's, doing a telehealth visit with your doctor, whatever that thing is, right? That use of that technology. So the supply side is what we're primarily looking to solve. It's an incredibly expensive problem to solve because we're talking to building to the most rural parts of the state. But that digital divide, once that connection is there, can still persist. So programs like Lifeline are a really great option for folks who are struggling with that affordability piece. How can they access that Lifeline service to receive a discount on their monthly internet service bill or phone bill or a combination of services? That's one way that we can address affordability. There are many organizations across the state, mostly functioning at a local level or a regional level, that are working to address those other challenges, whether it's, again, access to devices or addressing digital skills. There's always a kind of a crossover between digital skills and workforce development because, the workforce requires a constant advance of those digital skills as the workplace gets more and more advanced. And so LEO, the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, where my high is located, is also working to address workforce issues and thereby digital skills as well. Trying to cross off all of those barriers, the digital divide is very challenging, and hopefully that we can address them holistically as we move forward.
I don't know if this question's for Eric or Ryan, but maybe both of you. How is the MPSC involved in Michigan's broadband expansion, even though it doesn't directly regulate the internet service?
We've partnered with a nonprofit organization called Connected Nation for a number of years, which Eric used to be a part of, and that's where we have had a great relationship with Eric. So in our early years, we worked with them, getting mapping out, getting information out, working into the communities for that. We've continued doing our mapping work. MyHigh has broadband mapping information that's publicly available to the public. That's really informative and useful. We partner really together with MyHigh because a lot of the industries that we work with, MyHigh works with, so we're able to help each other if we're having each other questions or concerns about various providers or things, whatnot. We can help each other as they're going through their BEAD processes. If there's something that we can help them with, our staff is here and we help them with. On a complaint end, while broadband service is not a regulated service, since the commission handles complaints with other utilities, they seem to all get fostered to us. So if it is an issue that where we are already working with that provider on telecommunications or cable television, we'll still send it over to that cable provider to try and get those issues to get resolved. And it might be an issue of, hey, my neighbor across the street has this broadband service. Why can't I get it? And we will work with them and try and get that resolved. And then it might be something where we go to the MyHigh office and reach out to them and ask them, hey, can you look into this further? There might be a grant program that's planned, where building hasn't started yet, but it's planned, it's in the works, and then My High can help explain that. But I'll turn it over to Eric. He probably has more to add as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the partnership with MPSC is a long one. Back when I first got into this space, back in 2011, the Public Service Commission had partnered with the NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, at the Department of Commerce to implement the State Broadband Initiative program. And that was a first of its kind program in the country. Every state had a version of the SBI program. And its mission was really to increase the capacity to address the digital divide in every single state. And in Michigan, that looked like what Ryan said, creating a broadband map for the first time. It looked like going out to talk to communities for the first time and organize community meetings to address broadband issues locally and hear what their challenges were and what struggles they had and what solutions they might be able to bring. So there was a lot of work that was done between 2011 and 2015. That was when that program ended. But then Michigan had the forethought to keep some of those elements going, that mapping project, to make sure we continually knew where broadband was and where it was being expanded to, so we could help folks. Like Ryan said, you get complaints all the time about, what services are available to me. And so that continued on. And then in 2018, the state created its first grant program, the Connecting Michigan Communities Grant Program, that DTMB ended up administering. But again, that partnership with the MPSC was there to continue with the mapping and continue helping that grant program along because of that foundational knowledge of the industry. Even though it's not regulated, that knowledge is there and those connections are there. And then when My High got spun up in 2022, that partnership continued to flourish. And like Ryan said, we continue to work back and forth on various issues, whether it's hearing about, a fiber cut somewhere, or, pole attachment issues, or
right-of-way
issues, or, again, consumer complaints. We take those very seriously. And when, Ryan gets one that they can't answer, they send over to us. We've got staff that'll track that down and call up those customers to make sure that they can figure out how to get connected. And if there's any other programs to help them once they do get connected.
This feels like full circle, Eric. I mean, you're talking about 2022 and My High getting spun up, but I remember talking to you in 2019, working for the Lieutenant Governor and Governor Whitmer's interest in expanding broadband access and us talking about a Michigan high-speed internet office, and then fast forward 3 years with your work and the work of staff in the executive office, it actually happening by executive order. So this feels like I don't think we imagined we'd get this far this fast, right? When you thought about how much money, how much it would cost, but we couldn't anticipate the federal dollars coming in the way they have. I was going to ask a question after that. I would say you're talking about the BEAD funds and the biggest gaps and the expenses. How long do you think it'll take to build out the access in those very rural areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the BEAD program says that as soon as our subgrantees sign a grant agreement, they have 4 years to build that infrastructure. Some of our projects will happen faster than that, and we incentivized faster builds in our application process because we want folks to get connected, but it does take time. I mean, we want to build infrastructure and connections that will serve residents' connectivity needs, not only for tomorrow, but also 30, 40 years from now, right? Well, I don't want to have to do this again. It's been fun, but I don't want to do it again, so that we can do this once and everybody can have the connections that they need, and that those connections are scalable then to meet those future needs. That's really the key. So it's going to take time. Again, 4 years to build those connections, with some happening certainly faster. The other programs that I mentioned before, the FCC programs, the USDA programs, our Robin program, for instance, is done at the end of 2026. So Robin is building to 82,000 homes and businesses across the state, and they will be done by the end of next year. And those other FCC programs have a little bit longer of a timeline. So everything's not on the same schedule, but BEAD is a 4-year program, and we're hoping to have grant agreements signed later this fall. Some challenges with that, though, is that every single state and territory in the country is implementing BEAD right now. And so we have a shortened construction season in Michigan. We're going to be, our subgrantees are going to be competing for talent that might leave the state in those winter months to go to warmer climates to build. We don't want that to happen. And so we need to make sure we're addressing things like workforce, supply chain, and rights of way access, and all those things that can slow projects down. We want to make sure we meet that 4-year time frame, if not sooner. And so that's where, again, the partnership with MPSC comes in. The partnership with other state agencies have come in, that we can work to address some of those barriers we know are coming, so that we can make sure that those projects get done and folks can get connected.
When building out, is there a specific technology that my hive focus on, or that is being prioritized in Michigan? Is it fiber or fixed wireless or satellite? Is there a specific one that is focused on, or does it just matter? Does it depend on the area?
So it really does depend on the area, and we need all technologies to make this work, right? Because, for example, there are 6 locations on Isle Royale National Park in the Middle Lake Superior that I have to guarantee service to somehow. I'm not going to be building fiber to Isle Royale. So it really does depend on the specifics of the project area. And we also want to make sure, again, getting back to the idea of scalable technologies to meet future needs, we want to focus on those technologies, with, of course, being cost conscious of the federal dollar that we have and the allocation that we have. So in the final proposal for BEAD that we published just yesterday, that's, again, open for public comment for a week now, the mix of technologies is 84% fiber by location. So 84% of our 221,000 locations would be getting a fiber connection. I think it's about 13% would be getting a low Earth orbit satellite connection. A smaller percentage is fixed wireless. And then there's a little bit of hybrid projects that we got because of, again, difficulties in certain places. It's a fiber/cable project, or it's a fiber/wireless project. Again, meeting those local individual project needs. So it really is a mix. We want to see that mix because not every part of our state is created equal. There's places that are just unbelievably costly and difficult to build to, and so trying to balance the need for getting that connection out there that, again, is scalable, and getting it out there sooner with the cost and the allocation that we have.
That's great. And we heard it here first. We're not running fiber to Isle Royale. Right? Breaking news. I think this has been a really useful conversation. It sounds like, and I want to emphasize or echo the fact that the partnership between you, Eric, and different sort of iterations, different entities that you've been working for has been fantastic over the years. I think that the commission has certainly benefited from that partnership, and we're really happy to be working with you today in your role at the high-speed internet office. As we kind of look ahead to the future and think about sort of the challenges that are still out there, I expect that partnership will continue to be something that we both rely on and work together pretty well on. I think that there's probably a lot more topics that we could cover today, but it probably makes sense to work to wrap up. But I'd love to maybe start with Eric and see if you have any parting thoughts for us to think about. We'll ask Ryan and Commissioner Myers their thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think so. If we're thinking to the future and what's next, like in the broadband space, like, okay, if BEAD is supposed to solve all of our access problems or supply problems, why do we need to exist? Why do we need to address this in the future? And it really is that demand side then of the digital divide. Just because we build it doesn't mean they come. The build it and they will come model only works for baseball fields for ghosts in Iowa. It doesn't work for broadband. Then the data points to that, right? We can build all the access we want, but folks don't and can't always adopt it and use it. And so we have to continually evolve how we address affordability and devices and digital skills and all of those things, because as internet applications continue to advance, the skills gap then continues to grow, and then they folks catch up, and then it advances again, and then we catch up again. So that demand side of the digital divide is only going to continue to grow if we don't address those things and continually address those things into the future. And again, we can build all the infrastructure we want, but we have to make sure that folks can afford it and use it. And that's really what I think is the next big step and the big hurdle that we're going to face, and every state's going to face, as the BEAD program gets out and starts to solve that access problem.
And from my perspective, from a telecommunication perspective, focused on customers, I would just encourage any customer that has any questions, concerns regarding their service, that they're free to reach out to the commission. They can file complaints with us. We'd always encourage you to reach out to your provider first, but we do handle those telecommunication complaints We also can help provide anyone interested regarding the Lifeline program information regarding that. We do handle cable television complaints, so we can help with that. The internet, while it's not broadband's not a regulated service, we still can help potentially send those to the providers or give them other avenues for other federal agencies that might be able to handle that complaint. Customers are free to contact us by mail, by telephone, by web complaint, but we're here to help those customers with their telecommunication needs. So I just would like to just emphasize that we're here and we're able to help those customers who need that help.
That's great. Thank you. Commissioner Myers, want to close us out?
Sure. Ryan and Eric, I thank you for this conversation. I think it's so important to know how you're thinking about the future of broadband, and that it's more than just, building it, right? We got to think about how people can best utilize it and the upskills. Ryan, we appreciate your work here at the commission and what you're doing for consumers and customers and getting the information out. I think the one thing we didn't talk about is the change in area code for those of us who are still holding on to our 313. There's maybe an update coming and an overlay of what's the new area code?
679.
679 coming up, and it's been adopted or overlaid.
There's an overlay that everything will be taking effect October 7th. The overlay is in November, but for those in the 313 area code, they'll have to make local calls beginning October 7th. Thereafter, they'll have to dial 10 digits, so they'll have to include the area code with their local number to make those local calls.
That's right. But we're not losing our 313.
No.
That's the important thing.
313 is there. It's not going away.
All right. So thank you, Ryan. We want to make sure we are reassuring people that 313 is not going anywhere. And again, thank you both for your time today. I think this was a really great conversation, and really great to hear what's happening in the broadband and telecom space.
Great. Thank you. Again, thanks to all of our guests for being here today. I think it was a really good discussion, and look forward to sort of seeing how broadband access continues to progress in the state, how the commission can continue to support those activities, and look forward to seeing all of you again behind the meter.